don't have any more controls. I don't have control of the plane at all.
The Atlantic Ocean, in the dead of night. It took just over 4 minutes for this aircraft to lose control and fall nearly 38,000 feet. That's roughly the same time it takes to toast a bread. What were the crucial details that caused this accident? This is the story of Air France Flight 447. A place of profound darkness and near total isolation. On June 1st, 2009, this emptiness was broken by the blinking light of a sophisticated machine. An Airbus A330 cruising at 35,000 feet. Air France Flight 447, a red-eye service from Rio de Janeiro to Paris, was right where it should be. On board were 228 people, some of Brazilians, German and French citizens, vacationers returning home, business travelers, families, and a crew of 12. Welcome to our channel. Please subscribe now, red.aviation. The passengers were dozing, watching movies or reading, lulled by the smooth hum of the twin engines. In the cockpit, the atmosphere was relaxed. Captain Marc Dubois, a highly experienced pilot, had just left the flight deck for a scheduled rest, leaving the controls in the hands of two first officers, Pierre-Cedric Bonin, 32, and David Robert, 37. Robert was the senior of the two, also highly experienced. This was a routine handover on a routine flight, but routine was about to shatter. The aircraft was approaching the Intertropical Convergence Zone, a belt near the equator known for massive thunderstorm cells. On the radar screen, the pilots could see a large cluster of storms. They made a slight deviation to the left to avoid the most intense core. But they were flying into an area known for something else: severe icing conditions at high altitude. Inside the storm cells, updrafts held supercooled water droplets, water that remains liquid despite being far below freezing. At 2:10 UTC, the aircraft entered a thin, invisible cloud of these droplets that it happened in an instant. The small, forward-facing tubes on the exterior of the aircraft, called pitot tubes, became blocked. These tubes are critical. They measure the speed of the air rushing past the plane, telling the computers how fast it's flying. When the pitot tubes iced over, the flight computers lost a fundamental piece of information. A loud warning chimed in the cockpit. The autopilot, unable to function without reliable speed data, disconnected. The flight controls reverted to a different mode, handing full command of the aircraft back to the pilots. Pierre-Cedric Bonin, who was flying, now had to fly the plane manually. This was the moment the chain of tragedy began to form. The first officer's reaction was instinctive, but tragically wrong. As the plane encountered mild turbulence, he pulled back on his side stick, raising the nose of the Airbus. The aircraft began to climb. In a matter of seconds, it ascended nearly 2,000 feet. But as the nose rose, the speed bled away. The Airbus, with its nose high and engines at cruise power, was no longer flying. It was stalling. A stall has nothing to do with engines. It means the wings are at too steep an angle to the oncoming air to generate lift. The most critical rule of stall recovery is to lower the nose to gain speed. But Bonin did the opposite. He kept pulling back. David Robert, returning from the rest area, entered the cockpit. "What's going on?" he asked. The scene was one of confusion. The stall warning blared, a harsh, synthetic voice shouting, "Stall, stall," but the instruments were giving conflicting readings. Bonin, under immense stress, uttered a sentence that would echo as a final, fatal misunderstanding. "I don't have any more controls. I don't have control of the plane at all." But he did have control. He just didn't understand what the plane was doing. Robert, taking over the other side stick, also failed to diagnose the stall. Both pilots were now fighting the symptoms without understanding the cause. For 3.5 minutes, the Airbus A330, one of the most advanced passenger jets in the world, fell like a leaf from the sky, its nose pointed upwards. its wings useless. The cockpit voice recorder reveals a desperate struggle. There are sounds of straining muscles, heavy breathing, and the relentless stall warning. At one point, Robert seems to recognize the problem. We're going up ... It's going down ... Give me the controls. The controls? But the correction was too little, too late. The pilots were working against each other. In an Airbus, the two side sticks are not mechanically linked. If one pilot pulls back and the other pushes forward, the inputs cancel each other out. There is no physical feedback to tell the other what his colleague is doing. For crucial seconds, Bonin was still pulling back, while Robert was trying to push the nose down at 2,000 feet above the raging ocean. The aircraft's angle of attack decreased slightly as it fell through the thinner air. The stall warning, which had stopped when the sensors were too unreliable, suddenly came back to life. It was a final, desperate plea from the machine. Stall. Stall. The pilots were now acutely aware of their altitude. Pull up, Bonin said, but they were still in a stall. Pulling up was the last thing they should do. Captain Dubois re-entered the cockpit in the final seconds. His last recorded words were calm, but too late. What the hell are you doing? At 2:14 UTC, Air France Flight 447 struck the surface of the Atlantic Ocean at a speed of nearly 200 kilometers per hour. The impact was catastrophic. The aircraft disintegrated instantly. All 228 people on board were killed. For 5 days, the world had no idea what had happened. The plane had simply vanished. The search for the wreckage and the crucial flight recorders, the black boxes, became one of the most complex and expensive in aviation history. It took nearly 2 years and 4 deep-sea search missions before a remote-operated vehicle finally located the wreckage on the ocean floor. 13,000 feet down, the data from the recorders revealed the haunting truth. The official investigation concluded that the accident resulted from a succession of events. The temporary icing of the pitot tubes was the trigger. But the cause of the accident was the pilot's failure to recognize and recover from a stall. They had become trapped in a startle effect, their cognitive abilities overwhelmed by a barrage of alarms and inconsistent instrument readings. They reverted to basic instincts instead of applying their training. The story of Flight 447 is not one of a single villain, but a tragic cascade. It exposed critical flaws in pilot training for high-altitude stalls, the dangers of conflicting cockpit instrumentation, and the profound challenge of human-machine interaction when automation suddenly fails. It serves as a somber reminder that in the vast, silent expanse of the night sky, technology is only as reliable as the human understanding that guides it. Thank you for watching this complete video. Please subscribe our YouTube channel Red Dot Aviation and share your thoughts in comment section.